What's going on, guys? So, traders, this week we're going to have to focus on the Jackson Hole, okay? So, I know most of you probably don't pay a lot of attention to this, but this is extremely important, all right? Because this is where, like, first, let me just talk about the Jackson Hole, right? It's just a big annual meeting where all the top central bank members and economists discuss future of the global economy, right? So hopefully that makes sense. It's every August, they do it in Wyoming. And this is where Jerome Powell pretty much gives the most important details of economics, right? Pretty much he's going to go over the important things that we want to discuss, okay? And all the other central bank members are there too. So you're going to see the Bank of England Bailey, we're going to see ECB President Lagarde, you name it, they all going to be there. So why is this important to us? Because we want to know what forward guidance look like, right? We want to know what is going to be the next step. Usually during this meeting, they give it to us. When we're listening to certain central bank members, like during a regular day, they just, the markets don't take it as seriously, right? And usually like during rate decisions, we see that central bank members like to hold back. During this, it's pretty hard for them to hold back, okay? So if you guys are focusing on Jerome Powell, he's gonna speak this Friday. So the things that we're gonna wanna pay attention to is what is his expectations on interest rates moving forward, right? That's the biggest thing. Typically, when it comes to Jerome Powell, he don't like to give us any edge, right? Like that's why rate decisions, he's really good at his job. You know, he's really good. Just as much as I personally think that I hope that they're not inside trading, but he kind of knows when he says a certain sentence how the market is going to react compared to another sentence. That's why he could say something hawkish and then something dovish right after that. He's very good at giving us nothing. But what we want to pay attention to is interest rates. Okay, if he gives us an idea or a hint that he is more likely to start cutting rates sooner than expected, that's going to be the trigger we're going to pay attention to. So it's just those little tiny details you're going to want to pay attention to. If he talks about inflation, right? Previously, he's already saying that inflation is most likely going to rise. Expectations of inflation is increasing due to tariffs. He expect the rise of inflation not to be long term though. He expect inflation to get hit short term. So the markets is still taking that as how long is short term, right? Because if tariffs are still going on, are we going to get a cut this year or we're not? But market moves, they're expecting at least still 2 to 3 cuts this year. So September is going to be extremely important. That's going to dictate the flow of what the markets do expect. So if he gives us ideas that most likely we're not gonna hike, we're not gonna pause. He's leaning more towards interest rate cuts, right? That's what's going to be another indicator. So how we could determine that? It's going to be him talking about inflation, right? Does he feel like inflation is going up or down? Because if he expects inflation to push lower, we have a bias. We also want to pay attention to when he talks about the job market. That's extremely important. He keeps saying the job market is easing, but it's still strong. So usually he will go into more detail about it, but we want him to be one-sided. Is either the labor markets is strong or it's weak, right? That's what's going to really dictate because the labor markets is now being focused on growth. It's not being focused on inflation no more. So if we see a weaker labor market, that triggers that we're having a weaker economy. That would lead to the markets expecting more rate cuts, right? Because the higher interest rates is hurting the labor markets. So if we see that he's talking about weaker labor data, that the job markets are weakening, that's going to give us an idea rate cuts is going to happen sooner. And then also growth, how he's going to talk about growth if he's expecting the same thing, right? Because if we see that growth is actually struggling, this is what's going to give us the idea of a cut. But if he just goes against all of that and he says that growth is strong, the labor markets are still strong, not seeing no easing that is happening, that's going to give us the idea that they still have the breathing room to keep rates where it is for a longer period of time. And I think Trump is going to try to play a big part in this too, because he just loves talking so much crap on Jerome Powell that it's just crazy, right? Like make him feel like he says that I'll be a better chairperson than him. He's funny. It's like comedy. But I personally think, man, if Jerome Powell still continues this hawkish pause route, I personally think that is going to lead to Trump using that against him, that he is looking to hurt the economy, right? Because he's going to try to find a way to push him out of the markets. So he's going to try to find a way to get everybody to hate him and think that he is hurting the economy and not tariffs, right? So that's the whole purpose. Because right now, everybody still is blaming tariffs. But if Trump could take that focus and say, hey, no, it's him that's doing it, right? Then most likely the markets won't look at tariffs or look at Trump as he's the evil person no more. So it's all political, right? Because why would Jerome Powell want to cut rates now if tariffs is going to spike inflation? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to cut in order for inflation. Like, it doesn't make sense to cut, right? And then inflation actually rises, then he has to hike rates again. So sorry guys. So that's why it just doesn't make sense. The central banks do not want to cut rates in order to see inflation rise. If they expect inflation is going to keep going up, they're going to keep rates where it is. The goal is for us to figure out, are they going to hike? I don't personally think they're going to hike, my opinion. But we just still have to pay attention to that because we have to see how impactful tariffs is going to be. Okay, so hopefully this is helpful for you guys, right? Because during this event, I do like to go live with the private group. And even if you're new to it, it's about trying to find those little hints that could lead to a tradable opportunity. Because when you're first paying attention to it, it seems like everything they say is important, but it's not true. There's like little hints that they do give away that can give a direction for the markets. So if you're looking for, if he gives us more of a hawkish language, right? Strong growth, strong inflation, he is not looking to cut rates, right? He's going to leave rates where they are. This is what causes the dollar to rise and equity markets to fall. Same thing for the Bank of England, right? Pound currency is going to gain strength. The UK 100 is going to drop. Same thing for the European markets, right? The euro currency is going to gain strength. Then what is again the euro 50 or the DAX, right, is going to push lower. So if they give us more of a dovish language, then meaning if they are talking about weaker growth, lower inflation, right, weaker job numbers, we're going to see the currencies push lower, and then we're going to see the stock market, the equity markets rise. And hopefully that's helpful. So if you guys don't know why, then just go to the fundamentals. I gave you guys a fundamentals course in my channel so it could just help you guys understand this more clearly. Because hopefully now you can understand, like, even if you go through the video, it don't make sense then, but if you focus on it and just take notes on it, eventually it's going to make sense in the future. All right, guys. So trade safely. Just remember, it's going to be a 3-day event. Powell's supposed to speak on Friday. If you guys have any more, if you want any more tips, or if you guys are interested in learning more, join the private group. The link is below. Have a good one, guys. Later.